5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey everyone, it's the No, it's not the Undercenter podcast. We are not brought to you by the Sprinkler Fitters Union, Local 281. Remember, Cam, fire sprinklers don't work without water. Get your building's fire pump tested ASAP. Go to sprinklerfitterschicago.org or call 708-597-1800. Sprinkler Fitters Union, Local 281, protecting Chicagoland for over 100 years. This podcast is not brought to you by them. It is also not the Undercenter podcast, but my God, it's so good to see you, Cam.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to say that I was going to forget that fire sprinklers don't work without water, but once a month, you'll just randomly text me, be like, do you remember that they don't work without water? I was like, oh yeah, you're right. They don't work without water.
I'll be honest. Actually, I went on Undercenter. Tony Gill invited me on Undercenter this week, and I did it on their show as well. But I had to do it live, just to get the reps in, Yeah. So
it's all about time on task.
It's all about time on task. I actually went back and I was listening to an old Undercenter episode we did before I did this. The title of it was "What's the Best Kind of Bear?"
It's crazy that they let people title podcasts that. I cannot imagine that flying at all today in any way, shape, or form.
No. Good to go. This is great.
Let's do a podcast. Yeah.
I'm so happy that you reached out to me to hop on here for Bears and Colts. And I know Ryan's lurking around there somewhere, but Ryan was just like, you have the floor to do whatever you want with this. And I just mostly want to say to anyone who put up with me and Cam just jabbering about the Bears or just dumb incubus bits for the better part of 3 to 4 years, thank you. You made my job so much fun in Chicago. And I am thankful to every single person who listened, except for the person who gave Cam 1 star on the Apple Podcast review.
There's a whole hive of people that were like, his voice sounds weird, 1 star, get him off. And I was like, okay, sorry.
He hasn't done it for us yet. So we've got one star review. I think we said something bad about Jay Cutler, and I think that was it. That was the thing that put us over the edge.
That's the last straw.
I know. How dare you talk bad about Jay Cutler? Boys, let's start the show.
Welcome to another edition of the Bear Down Chicago podcast with your hosts, Ryan Dangle.
You picked a tie? What are we in Europe?
I'm sorry. Soccer? Ties happen in the NFL, man.
They're called draws, right? Yeah, no, dude. Why? Why are we doing? No, absolutely not. All right. Well, you got to keep your own record now because I don't have a tie column. I got a win-loss column.
Patrick Sheldon.
I say that because the flashlight emanating and beaming from the steaming pile of as today's game is David Montgomery. He is the flashlight in my pile of poop.
Brendan Shagru.
So our buddy Brendan, who writes for USA Today, I have always screwed up his last name. Shugri? Shagru. Brendan.
And Jack Wright.
Sorry, Captain Flo's over there.
I'm not Captain Cruz.
So you're not excited, Jack? You're not excited about having Sarah Spain?
Yeah, wow.
Show,
Maybe no, I have talent. Is that what we found out?
Featuring Cam Ellis.
Once I was trying to get a happy answer out of him, and I was like, "Hey, man, do you take out of these situations what is it like to know that you're this beloved that these videos are going viral?" And he was just like, "I don't do it for that attention." And then they just took the next question, and I was just like, "Okay, I'm gonna melt into my seat and never come back here ever again."
And Logan Bradley.
Bears rich history defensively, a lot of good linebackers. First round draft pick, hell of a player, a Bear that is going to go down in history. Nobody's going to forget. I am bringing back Shea McClellan.
The Bear Down Chicago podcast. Yeah, we're that Bears podcast.
All right, so folks, welcome into a very special edition of the Bear Down Chicago podcast. I want to say thank you. And I mean this, JJ, seriously. We'll get all ooey gooey, get it out of the way, and say all the nice things. JJ is one of the first guys in the Chicago media that really took us seriously. Came onto the show, was willing to throw back and forth with us, and JJ, you're one of the good dudes in the business, and I need you to understand how much I appreciate it. It was awesome listening to you and Cam all the time, and then having now both of you as a part of this podcast means more than any of us can say. So thank you. I am elated that things are going well for you at the Colts. It's our loss, but a huge gain for the Colts organization.
Yeah, man. I always loved coming on your pod. Like, I remember, you had a couple hundred like Instagram or Twitter followers, whatever, and I would hop on and you would ask these like super insightful questions that like made me think. And I swear I probably wrote like 2 or 3 articles being like, I think Ryan brought up a good point. Let me go like look into that a little more. So like, you guys did a great job. I always loved coming on this pod. I wish it, could be a little more frequently than once every 4 years, but here we are, AFC, NFC boys.
The Olympics is once every 4 years, and people love that. There's
World Cup, which will be so easy, Cam. 4 years.
There's something to be said about only coming on once every 4 years. There's a mystique to it.
So before we get into this interview, just like that water doesn't where whatever I'm messing it up, right? We actually have some people that we need to thank. So we're going to go ahead and do that real quick so that we can get into this awesome conversation with our good friend, JJ Stankevitz.
Attention Chicagoland investors and business owners. Need a commercial real estate expert? Look no further than Jeff Cadwallader at SVN Landmark Commercial Real Estate in Geneva. With generations of experience, Jeff specializes in office, retail, investment, and land properties. For all your commercial real estate needs, trust Jeff Cadwallader. Visit jeffcre.com or call 630-254-4734 today. And I don't live in the Chicagoland area, so I'm not certainly buying a house anytime soon, but from the people I do know around the area and hear from, Jeff's the guy. So if you're looking, Jeff's the guy. It's as simple as that. If you go, tell them the Bear Down Chicago podcast sent you, and you'll make a friend and you'll talk real estate, and what's better than that?
We also got to thank our guys at Sheridan's and Hensel's, the best barbershops. If you're going to one of those, like, I don't know, haircut places, you're spending lots of money, stop it. Go to our guys at Hensel's. Go to our guys at Sheridan's. You can go to henselsbarber.com or sheridansbarbershop.com. Go downtown Naperville or downtown Wheaton. Those guys will hook you up. I was just sitting in Will's chair. It's people ask, like, do you ever worry about your hair? I'm like, no, I got Will, and I'm going to laugh my ass off. We're going to talk Bears. We're going to talk all kinds of fun things. So go to henselsbarber.com or sheridansbarbershop.com. Let them know the guys at Bear Down Chicago podcast sent you. At either place, it's where traditional meets modern. All right.
That's the first time I've ever done an ad read ever in my whole life.
Well, so Cam, like, you're like officially official of part of the podcast. It's like
JJ never let me read. He cornered the market on fire.
Because I was too excited to do that.
It did turn into like we would all just like turn and watch JJ, and JJ would just like sit up in his chair and just read it. It was a tender moment.
The hold up, let him cook meme when I would just go, remember, fire sprinklers don't work without water.
I'm sure they're loving the free ad that they're getting right now out of this whole situation. JJ, I know we've got lots of questions, and just the reunion of you and Cam, like, truly just makes me so freaking happy. But there's questions. I think there's a lot of people that want to know. And so this is the one that really came to mind first for me. Have you noticed differences between the fan bases in Chicago and Indianapolis?
I mean, yeah, like Chicago is a huge market, and there are a ton of Bears fans. But the thing that I would say is maybe the most different, and this is not a good or a bad thing. The Bears have been in Chicago for 103 years, right? 104 years. The Colts have been in Indianapolis for 40 years. So, like, Colts football is just now starting to be passed down from, like, generation to generation. Whereas Bears football, like, my dad, who was born in Chicago in 1952, grew up watching Bears games with his dad, who was born, in 1923. Like, it was passed down in a different way. Now, having said that, Colts fans are real smart. Like they are real smart. And the atmosphere we have at Lucas Oil Stadium is I've been around the NFL to a lot of places. I'm not just saying this because I'm a Colts staff member, but like, oh my God, dude, the atmosphere at Lucas Oil Stadium is awesome. Like the game we had week 1 against Houston, like Zaire Franklin's in there being like, that was one of the best games we ever played at Lucas Oil Stadium with like the atmosphere. It gets loud in there. Fans know exactly what to do. Like Peyton Manning trained this fan base to like shut the hell up when the Colts are on offense and get as loud as they can when they're on defense. It's a poppin' atmosphere at Lucas Oil Stadium. And like Colts fans are just like generally like they lean more positive. Like obviously it's team's 0-2 right now, not as positive as it usually would be, but they lean a little bit more positive. But they also haven't been beaten down by bad offensive football for the last 60 years. So there's also more reasons that the fan base is a little bit more positive.
I'm asking this, 1, to give you a chance to talk about your job, but 2, because I don't actually think I know the answer. How does one go from being a Colts.com writer to announcing that it's third down on the stadium PA? Like, how does that jump happen?
I press a button. I know
okay.
what you mean.
Well, my second question.
So during our first preseason game in 2022, we needed someone to step in, and my boss is like kind of running around the press box. Dave Knickerbocker's got Chicago roots, and he's running around the press box kind of like, who can like do this? And I was like, I'll do it. Not really knowing what I was getting into, but just sort of like, hey, like someone needs to step up and do this. The thing that I realized is that because I've done live TV, so I've had an IFB in my ear before. Like I've had like voices in my ear while I'm trying to talk on live TV. That part of it where, we have our game day producer who does a great job managing all these different moving parts within our game presentation, who then is like talking to me to cue me, but I'm listening to everything else that he's saying while I'm saying, it's third down. So there's that part of it. And then the other part of it is like, I know the roster. So I know how to like baseline and just pronounce everyone's name on the roster. Yeah. So that part of it made the transition a little bit easier for me. And then I have to say, like, the support of the organization with it it's like meant the world to me that, people have told me like, hey, like, go make this your own, go figure out what you want to do during a game. I have a really good relationship with our game day producer, with the guy who kind of runs all of our game presentation. His name's Zach. He's awesome. He beats the crap out of me in pickleball all the time. Like, we have such a good rapport in there that like, I feel like I've really been able to grow within it. And then I've just found that like, I have a passion for it. Like, it's super cool to be able to do it, to feel like you're part of something bigger than yourself on game day. And it's just super fun. I mean, you won't be able to tune me out on Sunday watching the game. I hope there are like a couple of moments, Cam, where like you're watching the game and you're just like, man, like we really did like a whole like bit about football being played on a boat with that guy. It's going
to be super weird, I think. Like, because I'll have like 3 games on, and like one of them is just going to be JJ like announcing one of the games I'm watching on NFL Plus or whatever it is. Like, I think it's going to be really bizarre.
Just so you know, you kind of have my dream job. So okay. I stopped coaching for a little while. I had my 3rd surgery, little kids, you know how that works. And one of my friends who works at a high school, he said, hey, you got a voice, you work on a podcast. Can you be the PA announcer for the lacrosse team? And I said, dude, I don't know anything about lacrosse. He goes, come on, just do it for the season. I'm like, sure. When does it start? Tonight. Oh my God. So I'm like sitting on my lunch, like every YouTube video I can about lacrosse. And it's so much fun. You get the audience into it. I absolutely love it. Yes, JJ, I am super, super jealous. You're so good at it, dude. You got the voice for it. You also, Cam, made me think of this. The move. Can we talk about I know it's Colts centered, but when you said that the Colts have only been there for 40 years, JJ, the production value, everything you did with it, the storytelling, it was so freaking good for all of you that are not, Colts fans, don't worry about it. You want to listen to it. It was so well done. How much time did that take, man?
It was a real solid 4-month sprint. And I love that you thought the production value was high, because it was me and our radio producer, Casey Valier, who did an awesome job with it, like putting the thing together. And then Matt Taylor, who's our radio play-by-play guy, voice of the Colts, he came in and did the music for it. But like, that was it. That was largely who, helped me record the interviews, who edited all the sound, who put it all together. Those guys deserve so much credit with getting that thing off the ground. But it was such a fun story to tell. Like, there's a lot of stuff that I learned in it. And I appreciate, Ryan, you constantly retweeting it and putting it out there and getting it in front of the eyes of, a different audience, because it was a lot of work, but I'm really happy with how the product turned out. And it almost kind of feels like I did that like 3 years ago, because now we're just so in the season, and that was such an off-season project to put that podcast together. But yeah, it's always good to hear positive feedback on it. So thank you.
Well, I know Cam I keep cutting Cam off, and I'm sorry about that, but I just think that it came out at a time where I was thinking I'm hungry for football stuff, and yeah, we were hearing that the Bears are going to be on Hard Knocks and all that stuff. We were excited, but it was time to hear a story. And I think NFL fans today are at least peripherally kind of aware that the Colts haven't always been in Indianapolis. Some of them aren't. And I just think it's just, like I said, it was good storytelling. And I think that's something that I'm really, really drawn to. And he just did so damn well.
No, thank you. Appreciate that.
Was it kind of awkward to be a team sanctioned podcast and talk about the move? That's a tricky that's a tricky thing to talk about, isn't it?
It wasn't, because of how candid and supportive people like Pete Ward, who's our COO, who's with the team and from 1982 on. And I sat down with Jim Irsay for it, and he was so open and candid about the whole experience. There are parts of it where you have to tell the story of Robert Irsay, and Robert Irsay was an alcoholic, and he did some stuff that wasn't the most savory as an owner, but you got to be real about it. And, we were real about it, even though, yes, we are a team podcast. I think we told as complete of a history of the move as has ever been told.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. JJ, sorry, Cam.
I was going to say, I don't know how this usually goes, but let's transition to the normal Colts.
Let's do it.
That's pretty good. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I don't say transition per se, but
the transition. It's not even like the Colts moved 40 years ago, but now let's move on to the Colts.
Just be like, cool, JJ. Okay. Anyways, next question. I see. Go ahead, Ryan.
I want to talk quarterbacks. I think this is a quarterback one that people don't know a lot about, So I'm going to say, let's talk Anthony Richardson first, because even Colts fans don't necessarily know who they've got because of how little he played last season. There's so much potential there. I mean, how are you feeling about Anthony Richardson? How are Colts fans feeling about Anthony Richardson? How are you feeling about Anthony Richardson's matchup against this very good Chicago Bears defense?
All right. So I think the thing that I came to understand about Anthony Richardson early on, just from, being in it, from reporting, being, watching him in practice, is that we've never seen anything like this. We have never seen a quarterback go through the development arc that the Colts are going to attempt Anthony Richardson to follow. We've never seen it, because he had 13 starts in college, and he is a freakish athlete who needs to develop. And the closest thing that people compare it to is Josh Allen in 2018, 2019, where that offense was sort of chaotic, bombs away and scrambles, but nothing really in between. This is different. Anthony Richardson is a better passer. He's got better feel coming out of college than Josh Allen had. Now, Josh Allen has turned into a perennial MVP candidate, probably top 2 quarterback in the league. So that's not to say Anthony Richardson's going to follow his development pattern. But I think a lot of people here are still trying to wrap their heads around, he completed 50% of his passes, but we almost won the game. Like, that's a hard thing to grasp. But what Anthony Richardson brings to the table is like this unbelievable ability to create explosive plays at any point of a game. The Colts are never out of a game as long as number 5 is behind center. He also has this incredible ability to feel pressure and avoid sacks. So that's kind of where I think a lot of the, like, quote unquote, oh, Anthony Richardson's raw and he's, all that, like, I think gets lost. Like, he's got good quarterbacking feel. He needs to work on his efficiency, some of his shorter throws, putting more touch on it, certainly. But at a baseline, the guy has good feel for playing the position, and he is like an alien type athlete. Now, for how he attacks this Bears defense, this is a real test for him, because this is probably as sound of a back end of a defense as the Colts have faced all year. And Houston's got a really good back end of their defense. I think the Packers do some interesting stuff on the back end. Obviously, Xavier McKinney, Jair Alexander, those guys. But with Matt Eberflus, he's going to disguise the heck out of these coverages. They've got real playmakers back there. I watched a little bit of the Sunday night game, but like Jaquan Brisker and Kyler Gordon just like jumped off the TV broadcast for me. It's going to be a challenge for him against a secondary that I think can do some stuff to confuse a quarterback like Anthony Richardson. I think back to 2021, the Colts went into Buffalo, beat the Bills 41-15. Josh Allen got picked off twice in that game. And it was one of Josh Allen's worst games of that season. Matt Eberflus can do this to you as a quarterback. Now he's got the players to do it. I think this is a game where if the Colts can get Jonathan Taylor going on the ground, that's going to be critical, because then that opens up a little more in the play action game. You can generate explosives that way. But I'm not so sure this is going to be the sort of bombs away offense you saw against Houston in week 1.
I know the joke is like, oh, like you watched a lot of quarterbacks that couldn't develop, so you know how it looks. But like, I do kind of wonder, like, when you're watching Anthony Richardson, like, are you thinking differently about what you're looking for now? Because you're like, oh, like this wasn't happening for the last 10 years. So like seeing this encourages me, or seeing that encourages me, like whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, like the whole idea of training camp interceptions are like, well, we're just testing it. It's like, that was kind of a canary in the coal mine in 2019. Like, that offense looked pretty bad in training camp with Trubisky back there. And it was like, well, we're just testing stuff. We're figuring it out. And that offense was pretty bad that year.
That was a weird line. I remember everyone looking around being like, is that supposed to be what you say in this moment? Like, it was a weird moment.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like the only quarterback I really extensively covered, the only young quarterback in the NFL was Mitch Trubisky. And, Mitch, for all of his faults as a quarterback, whatever, like, there was a specific way to play offense that like could have worked for him. Like, I still do believe that. But the Bears kind of tried to, square peg round hole him into a certain type of offense that he was not equipped to run. So what I'm looking for is that like coach quarterback relationship of like, does your head coach or your offensive coordinator, whoever it may be, do they understand how your quarterback learns, what your quarterback is best at, and then what your quarterback's weaknesses are, and how do you minimize those weaknesses, accentuate those strengths while teaching the way that quarterback needs to learn. That's why I think I'm so encouraged by what Shane Steichen is doing with Anthony Richardson, because Shane Steichen has such a good feel and like he's got just such a good awareness about how each of his players learn and what they need. And that starts with Anthony Richardson. Like I think he's got it really dialed in to what Anthony needs. It's not always going to be perfect. You're going to get games like the Colts had last week against Green Bay as Anthony develops and as Shane develops with Anthony. But baseline, if that coach quarterback relationship is, right here, right where it needs to be, that guy's going to have a chance to succeed with the talent that Anthony Richardson possesses.
Let's talk the other quarterback. I know you said you got a chance to watch a little bit. I mean, there's nobody that maybe you saw some of Hard Knocks. There's nobody that is unaware of the Caleb Williams situation. He's been running for his life. I'm curious to just kind of get your perspective as you have covered so many Bears quarterbacks. You're looking at Anthony Richardson. What's your overall kind of feel on Caleb Williams and him, especially going into this game against the Colts?
Yeah, I mean, the lack of time that he has to throw in that Houston game where, it felt like Danielle Hunter was in the backfield quite a bit. It's hard for any quarterback to operate in that. Now, I do think there are things you can do schematically to help out with that. Like the Texans offensive line last year, like people kind of forget they were a disaster. They were the most injured offensive line I think the NFL maybe has ever seen. Something like there was some like crazy stat on how injured they were. And like, you didn't really notice that or feel it because Bobby Slowick schemed things up to kind of negate that weakness. Right. But it didn't happen immediately. In week 2 of the 2023 season, the Colts sacked CJ Stroud 6 times. And CJ had a bunch of passing yards in that game because the Colts are playing off coverage once they got up big. But like early on, it was ugly for CJ Stroud. You go back and watch that Ravens game in week 1. It was not good. CJ Stroud did not become the like all cap CJ Stroud until like week 7 or 8. So it sometimes takes time. Like I watched that game and it's like you see Caleb processing, you see him having control of the protections. Those are all really encouraging things. I think once you kind of get deeper into this season, I have a lot of confidence that the Bears are going to figure it out with Caleb Williams, just because he's such a talented player, such a talented prospect, and they have a lot of weapons there. Figure out the offensive line, either how to improve there or how to mitigate that play up front if you can't trust it. And there's going to be a lot of good football ahead for Caleb Williams. It just might take 5, 6, 7 weeks. So good thing the Colts are getting him in week 3, I guess.
Did you see that video of CJ Stroud talking to him after the game?
Yeah, I did. Why
is this the thing?
I guess it's a storyline because it's the NFL, but like I don't care.
But like Caleb Williams definitely doesn't want to be there anymore. Like that's so obvious. Well, yeah.
Why would you? You got your butt kicked on national television. Like you probably want to get out of there as fast as you can. I don't blame Caleb for that.
That face he makes when he just gets pulled back in, and it was just like, fine. Like, what do you have to say, man? Like I was just like, oh, we have all been there before.
Oh yeah.
We've all been sacked by the Houston Texans 7 times.
Yeah, I have at least. It's been tough.
Sacked by NBC Sports Chicago.
It's true. 2 sacks from them. So
there it is. All right. So I want to do this. I want to talk, whole team. Let's do advantage Colts and then advantage Bears. I think there's a lot of stuff, you talk about DeForest Buckner as being just an incredible piece of your guys' defense. And the fact that is it confirmed, JJ, that he is absolutely not playing, or
he's on injured reserve? Yeah. So he's out.
I mean, that Bears fans are hoping against hope that finally means maybe, just maybe, their quarterback will have a short window in which to throw the football. So I'm curious, advantage Colts, advantage Bears.
All right, advantage Colts, I'm going to say, is the Colts offensive line. And the Bears pass rush, it looks like they've had some good moments this year. It looks like they've done some decent stuff against the run. The Colts offensive line is like dialed in. They are playing really, really good football, like across the board. If you look at some of their like PFF grades, all 5 starters are in the top 50 among all offensive linemen in PFF grades. Quentin Nelson's top 5, Will Fries is top 10, Bernard Ryman's top 20, Ryan Kelly's top 30. Like, there's a good offensive line that I think gives the Colts an advantage in probably any game they take the field on. Jonathan Taylor last week carried 12 times for 103 yards. They need to get him in more of a rhythm, but I think you're going to see that as the season goes on, establishing the run. And then once the Colts do that, play action. That's where you can take advantage of a lot of defenses that, okay, we got to sell out to stop the run. Play action, especially on some of these seam balls to a tight end. It looks like Josh Downs is going to be back this week out of the slot. easy completions for Anthony Richardson to get chunk gains coming off the run game. That is an advantage that I think the Colts have. If you're the Bears, I know this has not been an advantage all year. However, if you're Shane Waldron and you don't say we're going into the game running the ball 35 times, then that's like a dereliction of duty against this Colts run defense. Like, the Colts know it. Everyone in that locker room knows it. Everyone in that coaching staff knows it. Teams are going to run at the Colts until they show they can stop it consistently. The Colts in the first 2 games in the season have allowed 474 rushing yards. No team has allowed more than that in the first 2 games of the season since the 1970s. So this is like a historically bad run defense to start the season. Now, the guys in the locker room, there is a lot of talent in there. I know DeForest Buckner is not going to play this game, but there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of pride. There's a lot of veteran leadership in there. They have to figure it out. They all know that they have to figure it out. But look, if you're DeAndre Swift, if you're Shane Waldron, you are going to run the football and expect that to be an advantage until the Colts show you it's not going to be.
We've got a good question from one of our listeners. So I'm going to throw it here up on the screen. And I think, JJ, that's what you said. Hey, the Colts players know it. So why is the Colts run defense lacking this season?
That's kind of the $1 million question, because they brought pretty much everyone back, right? Like on this defense, they added Leatu Latu. They lost Samson Ebukam at defensive end. He's on IR. But otherwise, it's the same guys who are back, same coordinator. I don't know. I don't have a good answer for it, frankly. I think, the thing that's maybe been a little bit surprising is that Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed, who are 2 really, really good linebackers. Zaire set the record, the Colts record for tackles in consecutive years. And Gus Bradley kind of said, this is not their fault. It's kind of the scheme's fault, but they haven't been able to play downhill as much as we've seen in the last couple of years. And I think Gus Bradley tweaking the scheme, maybe to allow them to play more downhill, can unlock that. But it's been shocking, frankly, how much the Colts have struggled to stop the run. Because if you would have told me coming into the year that the Colts would lose both their games to start the year, and it would be because of the defense, I think everyone would have told you, well, it's probably because of the secondary, right? And you'd be like, it's because of the run defense. That would have floored me on August 30th, that the run defense would be the biggest problem with this Colts defense. But here we are, and it's a problem that has to be fixed immediately.
I think the really interesting thing is, Bears fans looking at almost the exact opposite situation, which is we always can run the football. We can always run it, right? We may have absolutely the worst quarterbacking you can possibly imagine, bad wide receivers, right? Even not a great offensive line. The offensive line hasn't been able to pass block for the last couple of seasons. I'm sure that's a shock to everyone, but we've always been able to run the football, and that has not been the case for the first 2 weeks. So that is the matchup, JJ, that I'm really interested in watching: a bad running team against a bad rush defense. So we're going to see who's going to take advantage of that one.
It's to see who's worse. Like, what an exciting matchup we have on our hands. JJ, I see 2 losses, not 2 wins, excuse me. 2 losses by 1 score.
Mm-hmm.
And, I keep watching these games and I go like, oh man, like no one is ready to play football yet. Like how much do you think like the Colts, not Colts specifically, but like how much is this rust versus like, things we thought the Colts were going to be good at, they're not good at?
Yeah. I mean, early season football is, it's disgusting. This isn't a Colts issue. This is like across the league. The first 4 games of a season, you're figuring out what your identity is. Mm-hmm. And you're like, all right, we got to figure some stuff out. Now you need to come out of these first 4 weeks even. Like the good teams that can really take off are usually at least 2-2 coming out of the first 4 weeks. Right. Because you're at least on like this baseline level of like, okay, we're not buried. We're not 1-3 where we're trying to claw our way out. We're not 0-4 where like you might as well put the covers over our season. We're going to bed. But yeah, I mean, like teams are they're figuring it out early on. And that's why, like for the Bears, right? That week 1 win over Tennessee, who cares how it looked? They won. That's great. Who cares if Will Levis surrender Cobra an interception that won him the game? Like, that's great. You won a game.
It was great.
It would sure be nice. Yeah. Sure would have been nice if CJ Stroud threw like backhand flicked like Brett Favre a ball to one of our quarterbacks who ran it back for a game-winning touchdown, that would have been nice if that gift was given to us. But it's not. So
the Colts play Will Levis twice a year. Like, it's going to happen eventually.
Well, I mean, fingers crossed.
He's
things
bad at football.
Like I mean, and even like there's always like weird stuff that happens. And like, also like I have this weird thing about week 3. So the first year I covered the Bears, week 3, they had the Pittsburgh Steelers in. Their offense looked so bad the first 2 weeks of the season. The Steelers come in, and this is like Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell, Martavis Bryant, great defense, still Ben Roethlisberger. And it's like, well, here we go. The Bears won that game in overtime. Like, and like Tariq Cohen almost had like a walk-off 60-yard touchdown. Like, weird stuff happens in week 3. I don't know why that is, but it's like this, like I just have this like immutable rule. Like, the Colts went into Baltimore last year and beat the Ravens in overtime in week 3 in Baltimore. That was like one of the 2 games the Ravens lost at home all year. So like weird stuff always happens when teams are kind of figuring out their identity. There's a little bit of film on them and teams can kind of counterpunch. So I don't know. I mean, if the Colts beat the Bears and they beat the Steelers, you come out of this stretch 2-2, you feel pretty good about that. And I think you would have felt good about that a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I mean, 1-score losses to the Texans and the Packers, regardless of the circumstances, Jordan Love not playing, whatever, like, it's not the end of the world here. It's not like the Colts have these like fatal flaws that are leading them to get blown out. And we're talking about guys getting benched, guys getting fired. It's like they can't stop the run and they got to fix that. But otherwise, this is a team that's got a lot of stuff that they can build upon, specifically going back to the offensive line.
Cam, I don't have it.
I was going to say, how excited are you that 15 of your 17 games are at 1 p.m. this year?
You get it. You get it. I mean, look, I wish we had like we have one night game. It's in New York. And then we have the 4:25 kickoff against the Broncos in Denver. See there?
Oh, yeah. Nice. Oh, wow. I just realized that. Nice. Okay.
Yeah. Come on down. Come on. Get off the Dion beat. Come on down.
Although that'll be 2:30 local time. So that's a little easier. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's even better than 4:25 would normally be.
Get a credential. Come on down.
I'll just go to the credential store and get one. Yeah, that's how it works.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it's always open.
Don't you know who I am? I'm Cam Ellis.
Yeah, right.
I was on a podcast a couple of years ago.
Have you lost your Colorado credential yet?
No, I haven't. I actually do. I could probably do it. I'm just
amazing. You could probably do it. Coming down for that. No, you get it though. Like the ability to cover a game or announce a game and then like be in bed by 10 p.m. Nice. And like watch the end of the Sunday night game is awesome. It's great. Like we were in Green Bay and we got back like, cause I fly with the team. We got back at like 7 p.m. I like did my podcast, was in bed, watched the second half of the Bears game. It was amazing. It was awesome. One games forever.
Is that the age that we're at too, JJ, where it's all about, I just want to sleep in my own bed at my own routine. The Bears are going to play. So for us, when they're playing in London, it's at 8:30 in the morning. And I have so many people complaining. I'm like, I will have been up for 3 hours at this point, and I will be elated that it's over. And then I can have the rest of my day to do whatever I want. Yeah.
Like watch more football.
Yeah. That's true.
Or
that's probably
be with your family. One of the two. No, it's great. It's great. Like, and you actually like those night games just like wreck you. Yeah. Like when we have a night game, I'm wrecked for like 3 days after. Yeah. It's not until like Wednesday or Thursday that I rebound from it.
Anything after the mid-afternoon game's on, you're still there at the same time in the morning. Like it's just a way longer day on the back end for some weird reason. I
have a hot take on this, that those mid-afternoon kickoff times are actually the worst.
Yeah, no, I agree.
You're just sitting there and you're waiting and you're watching the other games and it's like you're just kind of sitting around twiddling your thumbs. But then inevitably, by like the third quarter of one of those games, you're like invested in it. And then it's like, well, I got to go sit at my seat and work now. We got inactives coming in. Or, like I got to go be in the PA booth and I really want to watch the end of this game, but nope, can't. for those 4:25 kickoffs Eastern time, 3:30 or 3:25 back in the superior time zone are like,
those are the longest days for sure. Like
those are the worst
by far. Yeah.
Yeah.
JJ, how's this game going to end? Who comes out victorious?
I mean, I don't want to sound like a homer, but like I can't envision the Colts being 0-3. Like, this team's got too much talent. They are too well coached. They have too much pride. I have a hard time envisioning the Colts being an 0-3 football team. Now, it doesn't mean it won't happen, but regardless of who they're playing this week, like, honestly, like, they could be playing, apparently the Saints. They could be playing the Saints, and I'd be like, I don't know. I still kind of like, I think the Colts are going to win this game. Just like weird stuff happens in week 3. This team is they've seen all the criticism. They've got guys who, can lead, like Zaire Franklin, Ryan Kelly, Quentin Nelson, those guys. Like, I just have a hard time believing that this team is going to allow itself to be 0-3.
Okay.
Who do we pick, Ryan? I picked the Bears, I think.
I believe it is everybody but Brendan picked the Bears to win this week. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, I'm not. I'm very anxious to watch what happens offensively for the Bears. To see can they put something together? Can Caleb Williams look like a competent quarterback? Are the Colts going to be able to take advantage of the Bears' just absolutely abysmal offensive line? So many questions. Cam, any other questions? Because I know JJ's time is quite valuable, and man, I have.
I got the rest of the night, man.
Are we making the Battle of 65 a thing? Is that an official? Is it an official rivalry now?
Yeah, that graphic we put out was pretty sick. I'm in.
I was like, I thought it was like college because it looked very like college rivalries have like the road signs on it and stuff. Like, there's more of that geography to it.
Listen, here's why it should be the Battle of 65, because the loser has to drive back up 65, or just, I guess, like, take a drive up 65. Like, world's worst highway.
It is not pleasant.
No, wait, JJ Stankevitz, I am calling you out right now.
Are you going to say the highway that goes through Kansas, I-70 going through Kansas?
No, because I said that exact thing that I-65 is the worst highway in America, and you yelled at me to say no, it is not. And now I hear what I was saying.
I do remember this because I had the take that that I-70 through Kansas is the world's worst highway. But, like, give me some defense. Like, I did that drive on I-65 like once or twice a year. Probably when we talked, and now then it's become like 3, 4, 5 times a year. And every time I'm like, ugh. And now I have to do it with kids. Like, you try having a truck going 85 miles an hour in the right lane while your kid's like, Bluey's not working. So, like, it's awful.
That sounds like a skill issue. I would just simply have Bluey working, and then we would get.
You would.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Sure would simply have Bluey working. Yeah, great. You
I
want
definitely know what you're talking about.
Tiguan next time, buddy? Get ready to learn Spidey and Friends, buddy.
I'll do it. Whatever. It sounds good to me. I got nothing better going on.
My dad lives on a golf course off of I-65, about 30 minutes south of Indianapolis. And every time we're just like, I love that you're on a golf course. I love that you retired there and you're happy. But Pops literally is the worst highway in America. And every time I drive down there, it's just, it's awful.
If there is like any amount of precipitation, it's just like, just phone it in. We're done. Let's go find a Holiday Inn. Like, get us out of here. Like,
or somebody gets into a fender bender. They shut down the whole highway. What are you doing?
West Lafayette's going to have construction until I die. Like, they're going to be working on I-65 in West Lafayette until I am dead, which hopefully is in a lot of years, and it'll still be under construction.
Keep this road rage up. It's going to be in like 10 years. Like, you got to avoid 65 from go the back roads or something.
No, because that's super long.
I don't know. I don't live there anymore.
I appreciate you trying to find a solution, but like,
I took the Kansas highway and I'm out of here.
We're in the complaining business right now.
That's true. I am always in the complaining business.
So JJ, any shout outs, anybody you'd like to shout out? I know you had a chance to be on NBC Sports Chicago. Yes. right?
Yeah, I did under center. Tony Gill reached out. Shout out to Tony, to Ken, to Josh, like for those guys for sticking it out until the bitter end. That sucks, by the way, for like everyone over there.
Yeah.
I hope they land on their feet. There's so many talented people who came through NBC who should find a place to work, and I hope they do. Other shout outs, Cam, we got to shout out Kevin Fishbane, right? Like
always shout out my personal best friend, Kevin Fishbane.
Kevin Fishbane and I have a great little like dad text thread that will kind of just like, here's the thing our kid did this week that he's either really great or like, is your kid doing this? Yeah, they are actually. Okay, great. Feel better. Very supportive space.
That's a good accountability space.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Other people who I would like to shout out. I hope Lawrence Holmes got his pus tooth thing figured out. I'm going on 670 on Friday on the Bernstein and Holmes show, but I'm not going on with Lawrence. They have a different host on with Dan. So, always shout out Lawrence for everything he did. Let's see.
To be clear, neither of us have any idea what you're talking about in that moment, right?
No, you don't know the Lawrence. Oh, go look at his House of L recap. He spends the first 10 minutes recapping the Bears game, talking about the pus that leaked from his gums. It's gross. Ugh. Yeah.
Better than watching the Bears, I guess. But
you're not selling that super well, JJ. Yeah, I don't think.
Listen, I'm just here to pass on the facts. Mostly though, seriously, like anyone who read anything I wrote, listened to anything that I did with Cam or Moon or Chris Bowden going all the way back, or who watched me on TV and didn't think this guy was a total idiot, thank you. Like, I loved every moment I got covering the Bears for those 4 seasons. Like, as a Chicago guy, getting to cover the Bears was like you kind of reached the peak, right? And it was so cool to be able to do that. But like, I'm so at home in Indy right now. Like, this place is great. The Colts are awesome. I cannot, I couldn't have a better organization to work for, from the leadership, ownership on down to our executive leadership on down to our content team leadership. And the people who I work with are so freaking talented that they push me every day to be better at my job because they're all so good at theirs. So, I love where I'm at. I miss everyone in Chicago. I miss being able to be on the beat and being able to be on this podcast more than once every 4 years. But I love it here. So bittersweet, but it's a great spot for me to be in here.
And it's a beautiful drive.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Cam, good one. Good one. Why don't you go drive through Kansas, buddy?
I did that once. I'm never doing that again.
Yeah, that drive's pretty awful. Yeah.
I thought I was losing my mind. Like, I thought I was hallucinating at a certain point. I've never felt that way ever driving a car. It was the worst. Oh my God.
Hey, whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there with open arms and open eyes.
That's right.
How do we get more JJ Stankevitz in our lives? It's just not enough, JJ. Every 4 years is just not enough. For all of you that are listening, we want to say thank you so much. We know you can get your Bears content anywhere, and you've chosen to hang out with us. Or really, let's be honest, you've chosen to hang out with JJ Stankevitz tonight.
Yeah. No. You chose to hang out with Ryan and Cam, and then I showed up and yelled for an hour.
And we talked about that a lot longer than I think people were expecting it to happen. But we know that you can get your Bears content anywhere. You've chosen to hang out with us. It means more than any of us at the Bear Down Chicago podcast can say. We would ask, please hit us with a 5-star review. It really helps to widen our audience. Like, subscribe, any of the things you can, retweet if possible, all that sort of stuff. For all of us here at the Bear Down Chicago podcast, that's Cam Ellis, Brendan Shagrew, Patrick Sheldon, Logan Bradley, Jack Wright. I am Ryan Dangle. Folks, thank you so very much. And as always, Bear Down, Chicago. The music is not playing. How perfect is that?
I could sing this all.